कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय हरये परमात्मने प्रणतक्लेशनाशाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Among the 18 paragraphs in Sri Shankaracharya's commentary on the second shloka of this 13th chapter, we have covered 5 paragraphs. In the book that I have, they have been numbered 757 through 761. The 5 paragraphs have stirred up the topic, have made us see how this is a very difficult issue philosophically, how God can be the knower in every one of us, and yet God is not bound. When you and I see that we know our problems, we know our difficulties, we know our sickness, our old age, the possibility of our dying, financial loss, whatever. When we know all those, we suffer. That's called bondage, bandha, going up and down. Once in a while happy, but most of the other time insecure, anxious, worried, regretting something of the past, and so on. That's called bondage. So if God is the knower, how is he not bound? And if he is the knower and there is no other knower than God, Ishvara alone is the knower, Ishvara alone is the Kshetrajna, nobody else in there to know all that is to be known, all that can be known. Then one more question arises. What are the scriptures meant for? Or for whom are scriptures meant? That is the topic that we are taking now in the 6th paragraph among the 18 paragraphs of Sri Shankaracharya's very valuable commentary on this portion of Srimad Bhagavad Geetā. Why is it valuable? If you are seriously on Jnana Marga, then you need to have clarity. On Bhakti Marga also you need to have clarity, but the idea over there is much time is invested, much energy is invested, lot of practices are taken up to bring about a very high purity of mind. And then in the last stage, invariably, the person walking the path of bhakti has to and he will inquire, who am I? And at that height of the journey of Bhakti Marga, he will find that I am no more the individuality. I am no more separate from God. God alone is, and I too am an appearance of God. That's how we reconcile Bhakti and Jnana. Now comes the question, why is it so important to go through all such paragraphs, commentary portions, where it is, they use a word in Sanskrit, jatila. Jatil or jatila means complex. Like the jata of Lord Shiva is matted locks. All his hair is matted locks, they say. Such that Ganga that fell upon the jata of Lord Shiva got trapped in the jata. And the Ganga could not flow out. Bhagirata had to again do some tapas to please Lord Shiva so that he lets Ganga flow out. So Jatila comes from that root or that word, Jata. So very complex. A Jnanamargi first enthusiastically takes up the path of wisdom. Whenever such paragraphs comes, the Jnanamargi is likely to say, let us skip this. And Jnanamargi tries to do a defection, wants to go to Bhakti, close eyes and turn inward and do japa and so on. Don't be so cowardly. Don't be such an escapist. You have taken a path, put in at least as much effort as you are capable of. Don't switch over at the drop of a hat. And we assure you that going through such paragraphs very patiently will actually, first of all, raise certain questions in your mind. First of all, you will understand the significance of those questions, leave alone the answers given. You will see, yeah, that is true. How is that resolved? Yes, there is a puzzle here. There is a problem here. How do we answer that? If you understand the questions, you have already gained half the victory. Well begun is half done, they say. So if you understand the question here, and if you understand why so many words, so many paragraphs are given in deliberation upon possible doubts with regard to God alone being the knower, and there is none else than God. How can that be? So one of the issues is taken up now in the next 3 paragraphs, and that is, if truly speaking, there is no one other than God inside every one of us, then for whom is all the scripture meant? The scriptures then become utterly pointless. Why is there Gita at all? Why are there Upanishads at all? Why are so many Vedanta works? What do they do? Whose purpose do they serve? If there is no true bondage, there is God only. So we just accept God only is, and then put aside all books, all scriptures. Why attend classes? Why study even Gita? So this issue of Shastra becoming useless, the Sanskrit word for useless is anarthaka. Artha means some use, some purpose. Artha. Anarthaka is useless, purposeless, meaningless. That's the question that the Purvapakshi raises now in the 6th of the 18 paragraphs of Sri Shankaracharya's commentary. The Purvapakshi, the imagined opponent, says, Nanu. Nanu is a word expressing an objection. Evam sansara sansaritva abhave shastra anartakhyadi dosha syat iti chet. In this way, everything is God and His play. There is no jiva at all according to this Advaita Vedanta. God alone is. God is Brahman. And who am I? I too am Brahman. Everyone is Brahman. There is no one and nothing other than Brahman. If that is the case, Shastra Anartakya Adi Dosha. So what is this Adi? Scriptures become useless. Full stop. Are you habitually putting some Adi everywhere? If somebody goes to a restaurant and drinks only cup of coffee, or sometimes 3 friends go and they take only 2 cups, share it, 2 by 3 they call it. And hotel management, restaurant management knows that these three young men never take more than 2 cups of coffee. But they overhear the friends saying, let's go to the restaurant and take coffee, etc. They'll question, what is it, etc. Have you ever taken anything other than coffee? Once at least eat something, they may say, right? So, what is the Shastra Anartakya Adi? A Tippanikara says, no, there is Adi here. Scriptures become useless. Guru Shishya Sampradaya becomes useless. Some people being called gurus, some others being called Shishyas, and they're holding classes. And the gurus advise some sadhana. The Shishyas go back to their rooms and perform that sadhana. All this, Shastrani Anarthakani, Guru Shishya Sampradaya Anarthakaha, Sadhana Anarthaka, Nirarthaka, Nishprayojana. So, 100 other things also. Places of spiritual practice, ashrams, everything becomes useless. So, that is the meaning of Adi. Now, the Siddhanti, the champion of the true vision of Advaita Vedanta, answers, no. Scriptures do not become useless. Scriptures have a glorious place in the scheme of things. And the Siddhanti approaches this problem on 2 levels. On one level, he looks at so many other spiritualists, such as Dvaitis, those who believe that God and man are eternally different, not only between God and man, animals and plants are different from human beings. Among human beings also, A is different from B, father is different from son, husband is different from wife. So, duality means not just between God and man. Duality is of a million forms. The seen and the seer are different. Past and future are different. Far and near are different. So, there are so many philosophies which accept differences in creation to be true. Referring to them, Siddhanti says, Sarvaihi abhyupagamat. The place of Shastras is accepted by all schools of philosophy, and all schools of philosophy, interestingly, if you carefully observe, talk about the accomplishment of the final goal in their life, in their spiritual sadhana. Maybe some schools of thought say, when you do spiritual practices and reach the pinnacle there, you go to Vaikunta. And once you are in Vaikunta, in the proximity of Lord Narayana, you don't need scriptures anymore. So to say scriptures are no more needed is said by other schools of thought also. So Shiva Bhaktas would say, once we receive Shiva's grace, we don't need anything else. Shastra Anarthakyam in that way is accepted. Abhyupagama is accepted by all schools. Sarvaihi hi atmavadibihi abhyupagataha doshaha. So don't corner just Advaitis. This problem everyone has. Therefore, before you question us, question yourself. Suppose Advaiti is saying to Advaiti, in your philosophy, the scriptures become redundant. They become pointless. The Advaiti says, we'll take it up properly, but first, if you say so in your philosophy also, it is useless at the stage of liberation. So scriptures do become useless in your state. And he says, Siddhanti says, Ekena na parihartavya. Na ekena parihartavya. Don't say only Advaitins have to resolve this issue of scriptures being useless. In your case also scriptures become useless at a certain stage. Katham abhyupagataha iti. The Dvaiti is not aware that in his system also the scriptures become useless at a certain point of time. Katham abhyupagataha. How are they pointless, or how do we also accept? Abhyupagataha means accepting, taken for granted, presuming, assuming. We also assume, we also accept the situation. So Siddhanti answers, Muktatmana hi sansara sansaritva vyavahara abhavaha sarvaihi eva atmavadibihi ishyate. So Muktatmana, once you go to Vaikuntha, or in Shiva Bhakta's case, once you go to Kailasa, or in case of Sankhya philosophy among the six darshanas, once the Purusha in you gets separated from the clutches of Pradhana, called elsewhere Prakriti, then any Shastra is of no use. Therefore, Shastra Anarthakya is there to a certain extent in all schools. So you better handle that first. Say that Shastras are useful at all time, everywhere. So, nacha shatesham shastra anarthakyadi dosha praptihi abhyupagata. These other schools never accept that scriptures become useless. Whereas you yourself admit they become useless at a certain point of time. So, tata naha means asmakam. Naha is for us also, yes, upon the awakening, after awakening takes place, Shastras become pointless. Shastras become useless. In Viveka Chudamani, there is a shloka which very humorously says, Shastra Adhyayana, Shastra Adhiti is useless for everybody. You wonder, your eyebrows will go up if you read that shloka. So, it is said, Avidnate pare tatve shastradhitistu nishphala, Vidnatepi pare tatve shastradhitistu nishphala. It's within the Advaita fold, such a shloka is given. Suppose the supreme truth is not known to somebody, then scriptural study is useless because he has been studying for so long. Some friend of yours, a cousin of yours, is studying Vedanta for many years under certain great gurus, but he is still in the clutches of Maya. He cries when he loses money. He weeps when his wife leaves him and goes away. He is troubled on so many occasions. Then you say, see, unless you have got the highest truth, avidnate paretat, your Shastra Dhyana is useless. We find you crying. So all you have studied has not given you any benefit. You are as terrible as we are. In fact, we at least saved all the time of going to classes and memorizing shlokas, etc. So that is the first part. Second part of the shloka says, Vijnate api pare tattve. There is some guy or lady who has understood the supreme truth. How does Viveka Chudamani say, for that person, the so-called enlightened one also, scriptural study is useless? The second half of the shloka says that, Vijnatepi pare tattve shastradhitihi nishphala. That is to be taken in a different way. What is meant is, since he has come to know the supreme truth, he doesn't need the scriptures anymore. He can distribute all his books. He can send all the books in 3 or 4 big boxes to a newly opened ashram somewhere. Our ashram is getting boxes full of books from lots of people because they love those books, they love those shastras, but their children are not likely to read those scriptures. And they are old, above 80, above 85. They think that very soon we will be gone and our children will not have any use for these shastras. let us send that to this newly opened ashram. So they're going to die soon, etc. is another scenario. This Vivek Chudamani talks about somebody who is enlightened doesn't need the books. It's like if you are, no, let's not give more examples. At one point, the Shastradhyayana has not delivered the goods. Therefore, we may label Shastradhyayana as Shastradhiti, Shastradhyayana are the same, as useless. And another point, since they have served the purpose, they are useless. So for Dvaitis also, there are occasions referring to those who are liberated as per the definition of liberation in their school. And Advaitis have that context of scriptures becoming useless, Shastra Anarthakya. Shastrani Anarthakani Bhavanti Yada. That is upon that great awakening. If you understand Advaita properly, then you don't need scriptures. And the ordinary mind says, Shantam Papam, Shantam Papam. That's how they say. Like this they say. Oh, don't say about Shastras in that way. They become useless. Shastras are eternally to be adored, honored, worshipped. Shastras are always relevant, etc. They want to say. But we say no. There is a time when Shastras become impertinent, irrelevant in all the schools of thought. Therefore, don't corner only Advaitis. Tata naha smakam api kshetrajnanam ishvara ekatve. At first sight, all living beings have a kshetra and a kshetrajna. So kshetrajnanam, plural, of all the countless kshetrajnas, the revelation made in the second shloka of the 13th chapter is, of all these countless kshetrajnas, there is oneness with Ishvara. It is Ishvara only appearing as all those kshetrajnas. And once it is Ishvara only, no kshetrajna is suffering anymore. So that is the problem. Therefore, earlier it is said, if Ishvara, God is kshetrajna, he should suffer. Ishvarasya samsaritvam syat. And now it is said, Shastras become pointless. Yata dvaitinam sarvesha bandha avasthayam eva shastradi arthavatvam. As long as they are bound, Shastras are arthavatvam. Shastram arthavat. Shastri arthavan. Shastradi arthavatvam. Na mukta avasthayam eva. Therefore, this is one level where the answer is more like a counter question. Doesn't it become useless for you? Yeah. Is it not useless for you also in your school of thought? Question responded to by another question. But Purvapakshi says, no, there is a big difference. In our school, a small number get enlightened, they go to Vaikuntha or Kailas or somewhere. They are a very small number. For the vast majority of us, the Shastras are very, very useful. Whereas in your case, you are talking something which is going above our head. What is that? In the we can say the 7th paragraph among those 18. Nanu atmano bandha mukta avaste paramarthatah eva vastu bhute mate dvaitinam sarvesham. Dvaitis, so many schools are all Dvaitis only, not just Sriman Madhvacharya's Dvaita Siddhanta, but as we said, Sankhya, Yoga, and Nyaya, and Vaisheshika, and even Karma Kanda, which is called the Purvamimamsa. There is 6 Astika Darshanas. Then there are so many Nastika Darshanas. Nastika, they don't respect the Vedas, criterion 1. They don't accept God, criterion 2. So Buddhism and Jainism are Nastika in both respects. Some other religions, which believe in God but do not accept Vedas are Nastika in one respect. So we can have double MA, double BA, there are some BA honors, there are some such titles. So there are some schools of thought which neither accept the authority of Vedas nor accept God. Then they are double Nastikas. So let's talk about Astika Darshanas. Yoga and Sankhya, Nyaya and Vaisheshika, Purva Mimamsa, which is those portions of Vedas which deal with karma and upasana. And then Uttara Mimamsa is the word used for Vedanta, on which Bhagavan Vedavyasa himself wrote certain explanatory and reconciliatory sutras called Brahma Sutras. But on Purva Mimamsa, Vyasa was capable of writing commentary on that too. But he asked his disciple Jaimini, you write sutras on the Purva Mimamsa. And in the Purva Mimamsa, Jaimini Sutras strongly establish the supremacy of the Purva, that is Veda Purva, not Vedanta. And he praises karma, he praises upasana. In recent times, in a little different avatar of that Purva Mimamsa, Swami Dayananda Saraswati, some 300 years ago, not the one who established Arsha Vidyapit, Arsha Vidya Gurukulam, but some 200, 300 years ago, Swami Dayananda Saraswati in North India established Arya Samaj. And this Arya Samaj goes by only Veda Purva. About Upanishads, they do not have any excitement. They put aside the Upanishads. They do not believe in Shankara's oneness of Jiva and Brahma. And what is their sadhana then? Be very devoted to karma, be devoted to certain upasanas mentioned in the Vedas, not Rama or Krishna, but Vedic upasanas. Therefore, you find them giving a lot of importance to Agnihotra and other rituals, and a whole lot of values and virtues. And that's also a wonderful system. Arya Samaj has produced a lot of virtuous, responsible, hard-working, dedicated, noble citizens wherever Arya Samajis reside. So, in all Dvaita systems, Dvaitinam Sarvesham, Bandha Muktavaste, Paramarthata eva Vastu Bhute. Vastu here means real. We take the stage of bondage to be real. And those in bondage are in larger number. Therefore, Shastras being applicable to a very large number of people who are really bound, really bound. That makes Shastras utterly valid. A small number who succeed in going to Vaikuntha, for them, Shastras are no more needed, so they are directly under the protection of Sriman Narayana, or some such explanation is given. So there's a big difference. You Advaitins, even during bondage, they said really there is no bondage. There never was bondage, there never is bondage, there will never be bondage, there never will be bondage. That's what you say. That's what goes above our head, and we are not convinced, to say the least. We are not convinced. Thank you for saying everything you have said, but we don't want to join you in your Advaita study. Further, the Purapakshi says, Ataha heya upadeya tat sadhana sadbhave shastradi arthavatvam syat. Since bondage is real in our philosophy, Dvaita, Dvaita philosophy of many kinds, one last time, not just Srimad Madhvacharya's Dvaita interpretation of Upanishads, but without bringing Upanishads into the picture also, so many other schools of thought, including Christianity, Islam, and probably the popular version of Sikhism and so on, so many Judaism and so on. None of them talks about one truth expressing as God and man. God and man are not different. That is said only by some breakaway groups It is said in Islam, some Sufi saints say that. An al-Haq, there is some famous saying which indicates Aham Brahmasmi. In Christianity also, some mystics have spoken things which border on Advaita. I'm sure in Sikhism too, there are some scholars of Granth Sahib who refer to some verses of Granth Sahib, say Nanak Dev has spoken of Advaita and so on, but they are a small minority. Whereas in the Advaita school of Sanatana Dharma, with all explicitness, with all open statements, and with countless branches, countless centers of study, countless spiritual organizations. In olden days also, so many mutts in North India and South India and everywhere else. And now abroad, internationally also, as you know, the word Advaita is found at so many places. It's not some minuscule small number among Hindus who are into Advaita. Large numbers are there, and Purapakshi's difficulty with the Advaitis is, as he says in the next sentence, Advaitinam punaha Dvaitasya aparamarthatvat. Paramartha means real. Aparamartha is not real. Dvaitasya aparamarthatvat. Avidyakritattvat. Any duality, as I said, duality between past and future. Duality, see, you are all sadhaks. In your sadhana, you often reflect, you often say, there was a golden time in my life when I used to do meditation daily. I used to attend the classes of such and such Swami who was at our city. That was so wonderful. Now the other Swamis who have come in the place of that Swami are not so good. And why blame them? I myself have got so distracted. I nowadays can't concentrate. So you have a duality within you. I was good in those 2014, 2016, etc. And now, come 2026, I have slid back. I am worse than a utterly materialistic person. I lose 200 rupees and I have hours of agitation. What has gone wrong with me? I am bad now. I was good. Hopefully, in another 5 years, I will again be good. That's also duality. That's also plurality. In Advaita, it is true. What Purapakshi says is partly true. In Advaita Vedanta, the right grasp of Advaita would have you the same all the time. I was the pure self with no trace of bondage. I am the pure self with no trace of bondage now, and I will always be the pure self with no iota of bondage at all. Advaitinam punaha dvaitasya aparamartatvat avidyakritattvat bandha avastayascha atmanaha aparamartatve nirvishayatvat shastradi anantakyam iti chet. Therefore, since the one who is bound is illusion, there is no one really bound. Therefore, even during the so-called bandha avastha, the state of bondage, Shastra is useless for you because you are not really bored. Somebody who is not really thirsty, why do you offer him a glass of water? Why do you offer a plate of food to somebody who is not really hungry? Therefore, if bondage is false, Shastras are pointless at all time, says the Purapakshi. He has not understood Advaita properly. So, Shankaracharya, now playing the role of the Siddhanti, answers, no, that is not so. In Advaita too, this Ajnana Avastha has scriptures meaningful, but the point is that whole domain, somebody apparently is ignorant and is studying the scriptures, and the study also is apparent, the scripture also is apparent. This is what the critics are unable to understand. So we have the words avidya bhumi and vidya bhumi. So are you saying studying scriptures is also part of the illusion? Yes, you got it. In your dream, you ran and ran in a forest when you saw a lion chasing you. When you wake up, don't you say, that lion was an illusion, but I really ran? No, you won't say. You don't say, lion was real, but my running was. No, lion was false, illusion, running. The lion that chased you, you who got chased, the thick forest with so much of trees and many other creatures for sure, that entire thing was an illusion. Therefore, please note, as long as the world looks real to you, as long as your stomach ache looks real to you, as long as your separation from somebody near and dear causes agony to you, Shastras are relevant. Yes, Advaita Siddhanta may say at the loudest voice, your bondage is not real. But is it so to you? Because you are exalted Guru, you have an excellent spiritual teacher, let us say. Once more, she delivered such a wonderful lecture and made things so clear. You are really uplifted during the lecture. But on the way back, your conditioned mind says, today Guruji gave such a wonderful lecture, but I will need at least 10 years to understand. That conditioning, I am still bound. And 10 years later, I hope to be enlightened. Though Guruji said, don't bring time. That thinking is the problem. Ramana Maharshi said, doubt the doubt and doubt the doubter. See? Doubt the doubt and doubt the doubter also. The one who has the doubt also is to be doubted. One who is being chased by the dream lion has to be inquired into. Don't, in your dream, look back and ask, is that lion real? Maybe that lion is an illusion. Wait. Ask yourself, I find myself running so fast. Is this person running real? And then if you wake up and you sit up on your bed, you say, both the lion that was chasing and that so-called I. See, if you understand this, who am I inquiry becomes more and more clear to you. The so-called I, the real I was never chased by the lion in that example, right? But it appears that you are in trouble. So Siddhanti, once more let me tell you, these things may look like repetition, but you will never know how certain insight becomes your own. The falsity of time, not just as per Einstein or some physics, the falsity of time in your psychology, in your mind, in your mental conditioning is a very, very important foundational feature of Advaita Vedanta. No wonder in the last century, J. Krishnamurti always said, enlightenment has nothing to do with time. And he mocked at so many traditional spiritual practices where, one goes about, one is doing japa, let us say, one goes about doing the japa, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Today I am doing well. At this rate, very, very soon, I think I will enjoy peace. So, you on your part have rubbing it into yourself that there is time, in due course of time, I will have peace. And Krishnamurti was so intolerant of it because he spoke from the highest point of view. For him, mind or thought or the thinking in us on its part bringing the axis of time. The clock may be ticking on the wall, forgive the clock, forget the clock. Your mind is bringing another axis of time. So he called it psychological time. And the clock time he often called chronological time. I'm not asking you to go read Krishnamurti or follow Krishnamurti, but some of these ideas have such a tremendous relevance to understanding Advaita Vedanta. How far is time absolutely real, outwardly real? And how far is time held up by thought, by thinking? You will find, as regards your joy and sorrow, as regards your well-being or ill-being, clock is harmless. The clock on the wall or clock on your wristwatch, etc. is innocent. This time is not troubling you at all. But the time that thinking generates, you look at somebody who has got some nama, some tilaka, and some japamala, and in addition holds some religious symbol of a stick or danda or something, orange robes, and somebody is coming from Rishikesh, Hardwar. You look at him and say, "Thank God, I got caught in family. 3 children, 2 of them are still in school. It will take a long time for me. Look at this sadhu coming from Himalayas." Your thinking superimposes on that sadhu an idea that he is either already liberated or just another few months or years he will be free. And I, with 3 children, with so many responsibilities, have no chance in this life. This is all thinking. Anyway, coming back, I made a reference to J. Krishnamurti. He extensively talked about the mischief of thought. He straight away goes into thought. What thought is doing? Thought generates time. Thought generates space. Thought generates high and low. Thoughts generate superiority and inferiority. Thought generates so many religious concepts. Therefore, strike at the root of thought. Anyway, coming back, no. Siddhanti says, Atmanaha avastha vedavatva anupapattehe. The pure self can never have. Anupapatti means logically not possible. So different avasthas, the true self cannot have. Yadi tavat atmanaha bandha muktavaste yugapat syatam kramenava. Tell me one thing, dear Purapakshi, says the Siddhanti. Suppose there are in Advaita also this bandha and moksha. Do they happen at the same time or do they happen one after another? Yugapat means same time. Kramena means one after another. Yugapat tavat, suppose you say in the Advaita vision, whether you call it unreal or real, that we'll see take later. Your understanding of how we look at bondage, suppose is such. You think that in Advaita Vedanta, there is a phase when there is bondage and then there is a phase later, which is liberation. Yugapattava, or in your understanding, they are together. He considers being together first. Yugapattavat, if they are at the same time, that is na sambhavataha. They don't happen like that. Sambhavati, sambhavataha, sambhavanti. That is bandhaha, bandhavastha, muktavastha cha. Yugapat na sambhavataha. Dual. Sthiti gati iva ekasmin. It's like saying there is an object. Let's say there is a little marble in your hand, on your palm. I ask you, is it moving or is it stationary? You can't say it is both moving and stationary. Sthiti gati iva ekasmin. So that's ruled out. So please, without jumping to a conclusion about how we Advaitins see as or look at bondage and liberation, you first answer this. In your understanding, are we talking about bondage and liberation being together, really or unreally? Together they cannot be. Krama bhavitvecha. Suppose they happen one after another. There are again two possibilities. Nirnimittatvam, sanimitatvam. Nimitta means cause. Is it caused or is it uncaused? Suppose bondage and liberation are nirnimitta, uncaused. Bondage there is bondage. There is no cause for it. Logic would have us conclude then that if something has come about or something is come about also is wrong. Something is by itself without any reason, without any cause, then what has no cause will never end also. It has been, it is, and it will be. Therefore, anirmoksha prasangaha. So that's impossible. Sanimitatvecha swataha abhavat aparamarthatva prasanga. Suppose something caused it. See, the higher logic has, if something is caused, then that means it never existed on its own. It was caused. And if something never existed, something caused it to come about, that cannot be real at all. Tatacha sati abhyupagama hanihi. Therefore, your own visualization of bondage in several ways meets with illogicalness. Your visualization of bondage. We will now tell you how we visualize bandha. Bandha mukta avastayoho paurvaparya nirupanayam bandhavastha purvam prakalpya anadimati antavati cha. Suppose you take them sequential. Kramena means sequential. There's a beautiful word here. Sanskritists would love such constructions. Paurvaparya. Very easy. Purva and apara. You take them. Purva becomes paurva. Pu becomes pau. And apara becomes aparya. The vriddhi of a is a. The vriddhi of pu is pau. So paura, paurva and aparya. Then savarna dirgha sandhi. Paurvaparya. Just as tara and tama. So tara tama you combine. Then you do vriddhi, aratamya, hierarchy, gradations. Paurvaparya nirupanaya. So if at all you say they are in sequence, no, bondage should be first and then one gets liberated. Bandhavastha purva or purvam prakalpya anadimati antavati cha. In addition to taking one bondage as coming first, you will also have to accept that it had no beginning. Because imagine, you say that bondage comes first, but before that there was mukti. Then what mukti is it? It's of no use. If mukti comes to an end, a school of thought which says you will get liberated and it will last for about 100 years. Then again you are back. So if there was bondage, then it should be, what is that? Anadimati. Adiman is masculine, Adimati is feminine, Anadimati, Avastha being feminine. Antavati cha. Then Tacha Pramana Viruddham. Antavati means that visualization of bondage will have beginning and end. That is against Pramana. Pramana means right means of knowledge. Tata Mokshavastha Adimati Ananta cha Pramana Viruddha eva Upagamyate. Then Mokshavastha also, if it had a beginning and it has an end, that is not acceptable. Therefore, one by one, we'll see another 4 lines in next class. One by one, what Sri Shankaracharya does is certain misconceived notion, misconceived inadequately understood idea of what Advaita is talking about has led to so many schools of thought saying, oh, this Advaita is this Mayavada and this is not acceptable. Shankaracharya went overboard. Shankaracharya went from logical stuff to some crazy imagination. That cannot be. That is not possible. It's all that results from people hurriedly studying some Advaita Vedanta somewhere or listening to Advaita Vedanta from incompetent teachers who are enjoying the words and concepts, but when it comes to certain critical issues, they are not able to give convincing answers. Then somebody who attends a few of such classes will go and say, oh, I studied Advaita for 2 or 3 years. Finally, I got disillusioned. I became very clear that it is false. Hold on. If you say you became very clear that it was wrong, whom did you learn from? And what were those factors? One guy had written a strong email to me some time back, some years ago. And he claimed like that. He studied Advaita Vedanta and finally was fed up. And he writes to me that you people go from cause to cause to cause. And you say for X, Y is an illusion, cause. Y, the cause is illusion. And for Y, there is a Z, that is another illusion. It's endless. In fact, that's when I myself went into these things very deeply. Then I understood there is no such thing as, ad infinitum, and ad infinitum they say, going on and on. Advaita Vedanta, in 2 or 3 steps, brings you to a scenario, which is the present discussion also, where there is a halt. The seen and the seer together, mutually dependent on each other, are a certain error in perception. We don't go on saying error 1 has error 2 behind it, error 2 has error 3 behind it, error 3 has error 4 behind it, error 4 has error 5 behind it. We don't do that. There is a fundamental error, and the one who has error, one who sees erroneously, is also part of that error, full stop, period. But that has to be understood very carefully. That guy who wrote a long email to me had neither the patience nor the philosophical maturity, nor did he get proper teachers to explain things. That was it. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.